Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. Hope your trucks are treating you good and your trailers if you have one. This is a video I've gotten a comment quite a lot over the last year. Some people nice about it, some people not so nice, but I got it yesterday from somebody who just simply said, you should buy a trailer, you can make a lot more money. And normally I would say yes, depending on what kind of trailer. Lots of factors go into that. And yes, I would definitely agree, except for in my case and in the case of a lot of people who watch this channel. So I never actually went over the numbers before. I just made some assumptions thinking trailers are too expensive, other assumptions. But this morning I said, you know what, I need to do these numbers and make sure that my assumptions are correct. So that's what I've done today, and hopefully my numbers are correct. I did them very quickly. But first of all, let me say that this is assuming that you're doing what I'm doing, and that is you're not working very much. I work about half the month, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And in this case, I'm going to show you my numbers and what it would be if I had a trailer and was trying to do drive-in loads all the time. So let's get into this real quick. You guys might spot some bad numbers here. If you do, let me know, but I think these are all pretty close. So I have been looking at trailers for a long time, and everybody knows over this past year and a half, 2 years, trailer prices have gone way up. Before all this, this video probably would have never made it because trailers were fairly inexpensive, easy to get, but now their prices are way up there. So I did some research this morning, and I've been talking to people. I have one buddy who just bought a trailer, and he paid $50,000 for it. And as I was looking around at other trailer prices, I found out that's a pretty good price for the trailer he got. And so I tried to take just an average price of the trailers I found, not the highest one, not the lowest one, just a mediocre price. And that's what I used right here. So first, let me explain. This is for a drive-in, not a flatbed. I could definitely pick up a flatbed and make a lot more money than I'm making right now, but I would be working a lot harder for it, and I'm just not in that kind of shape right now. But this is just for a drive-in, and when you're doing drive-in and you're out there on the spot market, you definitely want a van that's less than 10 years old. I see it all the time on the load boards for drive-in loads, especially when I'm getting these load-out trailers. And yeah, let me go jump back here real quick, because the people who are all the time telling me you need to have your own drive-in, you can make more money, I don't think they take into account the fact that I can have a drive-in anytime I want, and I'll get paid to use somebody else's drive-in. It's called the load-out. But back to what we're doing. So you need one that's 10 years old or newer, because you'll miss out on a lot of loads if you don't have a newer van. You'd have one with air ride, e-track, a lot of different things that go along with it, so et cetera, et cetera. So I assume the price of $50,000 for this one. Ones I was looking at this morning were about 2016 or older. So keep in mind that in just a few years, that'll be over 10 years old, and your options for using it will start to go down. But anyway, so $50,000 is about the average price I came up with. So let's assume some more things here. Let's go for, you got $50,000. Let's go ahead and assume that trailer, with the exception of tires, is going to be perfect. Absolutely nothing's going to go wrong with it for 3 full years. Let's also assume that you have perfect credit to get this trailer, and that you have a place to park that you don't have to pay for, that's secure. So a lot of things we're assuming here, but I'm taking the best case scenario. So $4,000 in interest, $4,000 to register it, depending on what state you're in. And a set of new tires, $4,000, because over the course of 3 years, if you've bought a used trailer, you're probably 99% of the time you're going to be replacing those tires. And just remember, I'm assuming everything else is going to be perfect. Airlines, lights, everything. So that all comes up to $62,000, and you're talking about over the course of a 3-year payment. I'm only doing 3-year payment here. You're going to be paying over $1,700 a month in the best case scenario. Like I said, a lot of assumptions here, but even if you go out and pay cash, this is still going to be the scenario over a 3-year period. So keep this in mind, and we'll jump back to this in a few minutes once I go over my numbers. Okay, so let's go over my average month. And like I've said many times before, these are all approximate. They're pretty doggone close. But this is my average day doing power only and working average of 16 days every month. I want to put that in perspective also. 16 days a month, because I get a lot of people commenting, well, I work this amount and this amount and I make this much. That's days that I actually got in the truck and left my house. Those are days that I drove the truck somewhere. The other half of that month, I wasn't spending in a truck stop doing a 34-hour reset. I wasn't away from home. The other half of that month, I was sleeping in my own bed with my truck in the driveway, not doing truck stuff. So I want to put that in perspective. And also, on the days that I did work, lots of those days, at the end of the day, I backed my truck in the driveway and I was still home, sleeping in my own bed. So I wanted to put that out there. So over the last, I don't know, let's just say 6 months, I've made on average about $19,000 per month. Some months are better. This month I didn't hardly work at all, so this month brought this total way down. I'm including this month, but on average I make about $160 per hour. This is my happiness factor. If you guys haven't seen my gross weekly videos, I usually put in my happiness factor, my efficiency number. And this includes all the hours that I work, or that I drive, that I'm sitting waiting to get loaded, that I'm doing a drop and hook, all my own duty hours. And that's why I call it the happiness factor, because in power only, it's a lot more efficient than any other type of trucking. So all those miles, deadhead and loaded miles, come out to be somewhere around $2.90 per mile. That's probably above average because I've found a little dedicated route, but on average I come out to about almost $1,200 per day is what I earn. And like I said, a lot of those days I park my truck in the driveway and I'm home. So I'm going to break down, like I said, the normal day, 7.3 hours per day. When you do the math, I'm only working a little over 7 hours a day. That, like I said, driving, loading, unloading, drop and hook, everything you consider on duty, that's 7.3 hours per day. Remember that number. I'm going to write that out here because to me, that's an important number, because my time is just as important as anything else. And so that is my normal month and a normal day doing power only. And I just want to reiterate that is on average 16 days per month, about half of the month. This doesn't take into account people who are the road warriors who are working every single day and only take couple weekends off here and there. This is just my scenario, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go to what those numbers would have to look like if I went and got this trailer for $1,700 a month. We'll see. Okay, these are really quick numbers. I'm sure there are mistakes in here. I made a lot of assumptions, and people are going to find, what they want to find in these numbers. But these numbers prove to me that my assumptions were correct. If you're trying to do what I'm doing and you're not trying to be a road warrior, buying a dry van trailer right now does not make sense. Now, if you work a little bit more than me, it might. It just depends on your situation. But for me, it's not very efficient, and it's not what I want to do. So I'm going to go over these numbers real quick, and keep in mind there are probably some mistakes in here. A lot of assumptions are being made here. But so for me, doing power only over the past 6 months, I've been doing averaging about 7.3 hours per day working. And that is loading, unloading. 90% of what I do is dropping hooks. So there's not a lot of wasted time sitting there getting loaded and unloaded. Every once in a while, I do get a load out trailer, and I will do a load and an unload. So there's a little wasted time in there, but 90% of what I do in power only, I'm in and out in 10 or 15 minutes. Not a lot of wasted time there. So the assumption that I'm going to make is, and I think this is pretty good. I'm already doing some loading and unloading here. Like I said, I do a little bit of loading and unloading. Not all of it's dropping hook. So based on my experience doing dry van, if you're in and out of a place in less than 2 hours getting loaded and in less than 2 hours getting unloaded, you consider yourself very, very lucky. Not a lot of places you go into can you get unloaded in less than an hour and a half and be gone. That just doesn't happen a lot. Some of these distribution centers now have their stuff together and they get you in and out, but keep in mind that when you are doing those, going in these big distribution centers, that you've already wasted a lot of time, because you usually have an appointment time. So you're sitting down the road in a truck stop for 5 or 6 hours waiting for your appointment time. You get there an hour before, you back into the dock. They don't start until your appointment time. And yeah, they only take 45 minutes then, but you're not counting all that extra time you spent waiting. So, a lot of assumptions are made here. So what I did was, my normal day, 7.3 hours, I said, you know what? If I did a van load every single time, I'm just going to take off an extra 2 hours of what would be drive time. And I think that's being very generous. 2 hours for loading and unloading. That's it. That's all I'm taking off of what I normally do. So that leaves me with 5.3 hours basically to drive on what would be my normal day. So let's also make an assumption that you can, over that 5.3 hours, let's assume that you can average 55 miles per hour. That sounds easy to do. If you've ever done the math, it's not that easy when you consider traffic, stopping for food, stopping for fuel, and all the other little things that might happen. So 55 miles an hour is really good. Now for those, like I said, out there, those road warriors who are doing 600, 700 miles a day, that's going to bump up because you're on the interstate all day. But let's just keep it at that. 55 miles per hour. You got to multiply that by what's left to drive, 5.3 hours, and you come up with 291 miles per day that you have left to drive. If I was doing this in a van and you add all these numbers to my normal numbers, I would have to get, on average, $4.07 per mile for every single van load. That's hard to do already, especially right now, getting those $4 a mile loads. But I'm not done yet. The best is yet to come to prove my point, because I have not added in this $1,700 van payment that you have coming out per month on that. Remember, assumptions, that's a perfect van, nothing ever goes wrong with it. So if you add in that payment, it comes out to be over a 16-day period, which I work, comes out to be another $100 a day that's going to come out of your pocket. So if you do all that math, it bumps that rate per mile that you have to get up to $4.45 per mile for every single mile, loaded and unloaded, every single mile. That's what I'm saying. This power only is very efficient. And when people see this and they're like, oh, you're not even making $3 per mile. And a lot of power only, you're settling for, $220, $250 per mile. And it doesn't pay as much as a van does. It never will on average. But when you do things like I do and only work half of the month, it doesn't make sense to go out and buy a van trailer, because right away you're going to have to be getting almost $4.50 for every single mile. That means you can't deadhead anywhere. Every single mile, if you're deadheading, you're going to have, this rate's going to have to go up to $5 per loaded mile, or $6. So hopefully I did all these numbers right. Hopefully that makes some sense. Now, I'm not going to go through all the numbers. If you worked 28 days out of the month, I just know in my mind, if you did work 28 days out of the month, this number right here would look somewhat better, somewhat. But the number, I don't care about this number so much, or this number so much. This is what I like, and this is what I like. I work half the month, and this efficiency number is just the happiness factor. This and this to me is what's important. Spending 4 hours waiting to get loaded on your van, and then scrambling to try to find that $6 a mile load so you can come out to be $4.45 a mile at the end of that. It's fine. For some people, that's what they're aiming for, the maximum amount of dollars per month. That's not what I'm doing. I'm working on efficiency and that work-home balance. Hopefully that makes sense.